What is this smudged lipstick? And why did you arrive drunk? It's over between us. Gather your things and leave now." The words tumbled from his lips before he even registered their weight. His voice shook, not from doubt but from the searing pain that burned in his chest. The same pain anchored him, refusing to let his legs buckle and his body collapse onto the cold living room floor. She stared at him first with shock, then guilt, attempting a smile, as if that could erase the red smudge at the corner of her lips or the nearly invisible stain on her dress. As if he could disregard the scent of alcohol mingled with a man's cologne clinging to her skin. I can explain," she started. But he raised a hand, silencing any words he didn't want to hear. "I don't need an explanation. I can't bear to hear another lie." Before him stood a woman he thought he knew, yet in that moment, she felt like a stranger who had just shattered everything. She staggered back, trying to regain her balance as a mix of anger and contempt surged within him. He ached to scream, to throw her out immediately, but something within urged him to remain calm, not to forgive, but to understand. "I need to know every detail. Who, where, why, and, more importantly, since when have you been with him? Was it today, or did this begin long ago?" Her silence spoke volumes more than words could convey. His hands clenched into fists, and the lump in his throat tightened. She took a hesitant step toward him, but he instinctively recoiled. "Don't come any closer. I don't want you near me. I made a mistake." "I know, but it's not what you think," she pleaded. "Isn't that exactly what I'm thinking? Do you want me to believe this?" He gestured toward her face, the smudged lipstick and her unsteady posture. "It's a misunderstanding?" "It was a mistake. I drank too much." "Don't you dare call it just a mistake," he snapped back. "This wasn't a slip, it was a choice." She fell silent, guilt etched across her features, late regret clouding her eyes, but remorse wasn't enough. Repentance wouldn't mend the betrayal. "Gather your things and leave now," he said, his voice trembling with fury. "Please, listen to me." Her scream reverberated through the room. She finally moved, but not to depart. Instead, she hurled her bag onto the couch and sank to her knees, crying. He watched the scene unfold, feeling a blend of anger and pity. How could she plead for understanding after tearing him apart? How could she have the audacity to ask to stay after everything they had built together crumbled? "I was unhappy. I felt invisible." "Invisible? I've always been here. I've always been loyal to you. I did everything to make you happy, and yet you betrayed me. I didn't want it to end like this, but it has. You made this choice, and now you must face the consequences." He turned his back and left the room. He needed to breathe. He needed distance from her and the swirling confusion of emotions inside. Yet when he returned, he was met with a forgotten cell phone on the couch. A message lit up the screen. "I hope you enjoyed last night. I can't wait to do it again." His eyes darted across the screen. The contact name read work, but it wasn't work. It was something far worse. He clenched his phone tightly, his heart hammering in his chest. The betrayal was greater than he had fathomed. It wasn't just one night. It wasn't an accident. The bedroom door creaked open, and she emerged holding a suitcase. He raised his phone. "Who is he?" She froze. He swallowed hard. "It doesn't matter. For me, it matters." Her silence confirmed all his worst fears. He knew he would never get the answers he sought. He would never hear the complete truth from her because she lacked the courage to confess. She brushed past him, but he seized her arm. "Do you regret it?" "Don't answer. I already know." She wrenched her arm away and left, leaving behind the scent of cheap perfume now tainted with betrayal. He remained there, staring at the closed door and the void it created. But the worst was yet to come. Hours later, the phone rang, an unfamiliar number. When he answered, a deep male voice echoed, "I need to talk to you. It's about your wife." His heart plummeted. "Who are you?" "The man who ruined your life." The call ended before he could respond. In that moment, he realized this betrayal was far from over. She was merely the beginning, for what lay ahead would be even more painful, more destructive. As he stared into the void, clutching his cell phone like a bomb ready to detonate, a single question echoed in his mind. What else was she hiding? Welcome to the channel where we expose the darkest secrets of human relationships. Here, betrayal is neither romanticized nor justified. Our stories are fictional, yet they carry heartbreaking truths about how disloyalty can ruin lives, dreams, and families. Prepare to immerse yourself in an intense narrative filled with raw emotions and unforeseen twists. This is a shocking tale that will captivate you from beginning to end. So take a deep breath, for what you are about to hear may forever alter your view of love and trust. Michael watched through the window as lights glimmered on the rain-soaked street, droplets racing down the glass like silent tears. He felt the weight of the entire week pressing down on him. It was late, and the house was quiet, save for the ticking clock in the kitchen. He ran his fingers through his hair, attempting to dispel the simmering restlessness that had plagued him for days. Seated on the couch, memories of how it all began flooded his mind. He recalled meeting Emily almost 7 years ago in a bustling coffee shop. She wore a light blue dress and held a book with well-worn pages, as if she had read that same copy countless times. Her shy smile when accepting his invitation for coffee remained vivid, much like the butterflies in his stomach during their first date. Emily had a magic about her, lighting up every room with her soft laughter and bright gaze that seemed to see beyond mere appearances. She was delicate and yet determined. Michael had always admired her knack for turning fleeting moments into something extraordinary. In those early years, they shared everything, from deepest fears to most ambitious dreams. Emily poured herself into art, spending hours crafting paintings that filled their home with color and life. Meanwhile, Michael, a dedicated accountant, found security in numbers and predictability. Their differences never posed a problem. Instead, they seemed to complement each other in a nearly magical way. The home they chose wasn't grand, yet it emanated character, a sanctuary where warmth enveloped them, adorned with Emily's art and painstakingly arranged by Michael. Their routines were simple and cozy, laughter-filled dinners, wine and candles illuminating late-night conversations, spontaneous getaways to nearby towns. But lately, something felt off. Emily came home late from work, her explanations always plausible: meetings, vital projects, colleagues seeking assistance. Michael fought against his insecurities. He trusted her, or thought he did. Still, moments arose when he drafted a message, hesitating, sensing an intrusion. The distance between them wasn't overt, but it lurked in the nuances. Romantic dinners became scarce, their conversations shortened, and their nights together lost the fervor that once defined them. Emily sensed the change too, but seemed unwilling to confront it. At work, she thrived, garnering compliments from colleagues and praise from her superiors. This validation ignited a spark in her that had dimmed at home. Though she loved Michael, doubts crept in. Were they truly meant to be, or had they merely settled for the concept of a perfect marriage? When she returned home, often weary, he waited on the couch, watching the same series, scrolling through news articles on his phone. He seemed distant to her, and she struggled to bridge the gap. One evening, he prepared dinner, simple, just pasta with homemade sauce and wine. Emily arrived late, as had become custom, but she attempted a smile upon seeing him at the table. He rose to kiss her, but she turned slightly, allowing the kiss to land on her cheek. He masked his discomfort, pulling out a chair for her. They conversed about work, changes at the office, and successful new campaigns. He listened, pretending to be more engaged than he felt, contemplating whether she would notice if he mentioned he'd made reservations for a weekend getaway at the beach. Emily smiled politely, yet her mind seemed elsewhere. After dinner, she retreated to shower while Michael washed the dishes, unease settling in as he gazed at the plates. Something wasn't right. When she returned, he attempted to pull her into a dance like they used to, but she laughed and declined, saying she was tired. He watched her ascend the stairs, a tightening emptiness filling his chest. In the bedroom, Emily checked her phone multiple times before placing it on the bedside table, taking a deep breath as if summoning courage to say something profound. But when Michael eased into bed beside her, all she managed was a whispered goodnight. In the following days, Michael tried to ignore the signs. He convinced himself he was exaggerating, that perhaps stress and routine slowly eroded their marriage. Yet the scent of unfamiliar perfume on her clothes and her sudden furtive glances at her phone began to erode his confidence. He despised feeling like a spy, observing someone he was meant to trust. Emily felt trapped between regret and an unarticulated yearning. She loved Michael, but something within her had shifted. The monotony suffocated her, and working late stirred feelings she struggled to suppress. Michael decided to surprise her with flowers and a planned dinner, hoping to reignite the dwindling flame. When she arrived home, he awaited her with the table set, candles flickering, and the wine from their engagement night. Emily looked surprised, yet confusion shadowed her expression. During dinner, he tried introducing conversations about their future, trips they could take, renovations they could plan. But she responded automatically, the chasm between them more pronounced than ever. He clasped her hand, expressing how much he missed her, reminiscing about the laughter they once shared. She smiled, but her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. After that night, Michael became hyper-aware. He scrutinized their interactions, noting every detail, every sign. Something deep inside sensed Emily's story concealed more than she was willing to share, yet he wasn't prepared to confront the truth, not yet. As days passed, tension escalated. Emily grew increasingly aloof, while Michael felt the grip on his life loosening until one fateful night, everything shifted, and nothing would return to normal. Michael sat in the heavy silence. Dinner lay untouched on the table, candles melted into forgotten puddles of wax as Emily still hadn't returned. He checked the clock repeatedly, attempting to quell the knot tightening in his stomach with each passing minute. He pulled out his phone, typed her name, and hesitated before pressing call. When the cold, impersonal sound of voicemail struck him, frustration washed over him, draining his resolve. He reassured himself she was merely busy, that something had arisen at work, telling himself he was overreacting. Yet the gnawing feeling that something was amiss persisted, an inescapable shadow trailing him. The scent of wine lingered in the air. He stood and began pacing around the house, his footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. Passing their bedroom, he noted her favorite blue dress was missing. This small detail gnawed at him more than it ought to have. He returned to the living room, sinking onto the sofa, clutching his phone anxiously, waiting for a signal, any signal. Hours passed before the sound of a key turning in the lock jolted him. Emily stumbled in, her eyes heavy with laughter caught in her throat. She froze at the sight of him, hands folded in his lap awaiting her. As he stood, silence stretched between them like an invisible wall. Emily attempted to mask her imbalance, but stumbled on the carpet, releasing a nervous laugh that fell flat when she recognized his expression. He advanced towards her, catching the strong whiff of alcohol mixed with an unfamiliar perfume. His gaze fell on the smudged lipstick at the corner of her mouth and the reddened mark on her neck, something she made no attempt to hide. Desperate, she placed her hand over her mouth, as if realizing her state for the first time, but it was already too late. He remained rigid, watching her struggle for words. Finally, he asserted, "What is this smudged lipstick and why did you arrive drunk?" Emily opened her mouth, but no sound came forth. She fidgeted, attempting to smooth her hair and wipe her face clumsily, only making the situation more apparent. Michael took a step back, needing space to breathe, but his eyes remained fixed on her. She finally mustered a response, her voice shaky. "It's not what you think." But he laughed, a bitter sound reverberating through the room. "Isn't that exactly what I'm thinking? So, tell me, what is this? Because I'm looking at you right now, and I don't see the woman I married. I see a liar." Emily pressed her hands to her face, trying to hide the tears beginning to flow, but he remained unmoved. He waited for answers, but all he heard were disjointed excuses, only intensifying his rage. "I can explain. Please, just listen to me." "Listen to what? More lies? More excuses?" She reached for him, but he recoiled as if her touch burned. The pain in her eyes was evident, but beneath it lay a rising fury, a desperation for answers she seemed unwilling to provide. "Just one night, I swear. I drank too much. I got carried away. I regret it. Please don't do this to us." Michael fell silent for a moment. Her words echoed in his memory like a hammer striking relentlessly. Just one night. As if that lessened the magnitude of her betrayal. Turning from her, he walked toward the kitchen to escape, yet he couldn't shake the images imprinting on his mind. Her expression, the mark on her neck, the scent of her perfume. Nothing made sense, yet it all lined up perfectly. When he returned to the living room, he discovered Emily sitting on the couch, her face buried in her hands. He halted before her, steadier than expected. "Get your things and leave now." She looked up, astonished by his tone. Trying to rise, her legs buckled and she fell back onto the couch. "Please, Michael. I know I made a mistake, but you can't just kick me out like this. We have a history. I love you." He shook his head in disbelief. "Love is this? Love for you? Cheating? Lying? Keeping me waiting while you were?" He hesitated, unable to voice the harsh reality. Emily began to cry, yet Michael pulled away, retreating upstairs to gather her belongings, tossing clothes into a suitcase with careless abandon. When he descended, she remained, hugging her knees, pleading with her eyes. "You don't have to do this. We can get through this. I've already made my decision." Michael set the suitcase by the door, waiting. Emily approached slowly, each step appearing agonizing. Arriving at the door, she offered one last gaze. "I'm leaving, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you." Michael remained silent, waiting for her to depart. When the door finally clicked shut behind her, silence enveloped the house once more. But this time, it felt heavy, suffocating, as if the walls were closing in. He sat on the couch, attempting to absorb the events of the day, but his mind kept reverting to her phone, still on the table, forgotten in her haste to leave. He picked it up, hands trembling, swiping across the screen. The messages appeared, confirming his worst fears. "I can't wait to see you again." Michael read those words repeatedly, each letter piercing his heart like a blade. The contact's name was Work, but he knew that wasn't the complete story. As he stared at the words, one query echoed in his mind. What else was she hiding? Michael stood in the middle of the living room, his phone wrapped tightly in trembling hands. The open message glowed, a cruel reminder of the betrayal he had known. Yet seeing it in writing made the truth even more excruciating. He ran a hand over his face, feeling cold sweat gather on his brow. The lump in his throat tightened, forcing him to swallow hard to suppress the urge to scream. His thoughts whirled, trying to make sense of it all, struggling to comprehend how this had occurred. How Emily had dismantled everything they had built together. The phone vibrated again. Work flashed on the screen. Without a second thought, he answered. The silence on the other end stretched until a male voice finally echoed, "I need to talk to you." Michael froze, instantly recognizing the voice. It was cold, calculated, laced with an underlying tension. He closed his eyes momentarily before responding, his stomach dropping. "Who are you?" Heavy breaths came over the line, and Michael tightened his grip on the phone. "Someone who believes you need to know the truth." Michael's eyes narrowed. "What truth?" A long pause followed as if the man sought the right words. "She didn't tell you anything, did she?" "About us, about how it all began." Michael's heart raced as anger and confusion bubbled within him. "I already know about you. I know enough." "No, you don't. She wasn't honest with me either, and I think you need to hear what really happened." Every word struck like a blow, but he needed to hear it. "I need to know. So speak." Emily wasn't just searching for something new. She was running away from you, from the life you built. It felt like an ember igniting a blaze within him. "Running away from what?" The man's voice tensed. "She told me you controlled everything, that it suffocated her. I bought it. But then I realized she was only trying to justify her actions." Michael's eyes slid shut, absorbing the words piercing his mind. "What do you want from me now?" The man took a deep breath. "I want you to know that I ended it. She tried to use me, just like she did with you. But there's one more thing, a detail you need to know before it's too late." Michael remained silent, waiting. "She didn't leave the office alone that night. I wasn't her only companion." The revelation thundered through him. "What are you saying?" "She used me to cover for someone else. She didn't expect me to uncover the truth, but I saw it. I watched her leave with him after he left me. I followed her, and when I realized what was happening, I knew I had to tell you." Michael surged to his feet, his heartbeat racing as if about to explode. "Who is he?" The voice hesitated. "Someone you know, someone closer than you imagine." Michael's hands trembled. Disbelief morphed into fury. "Her boss. They were together before me." The truth sank deep. All the late-night meetings and business trips suddenly made sense. Michael's chest tightened. "Are you sure?" "I saw them both. I witnessed how she looked at him. They'd been meeting long before I entered the picture." Michael dropped the phone onto the couch, running his hands through his hair, feeling the floor beneath him shift. He grappled for a deeper breath, yet the air felt suffocating. Pacing back and forth, he attempted to piece everything together. She had betrayed him. She had lied. She had orchestrated everything. He picked up his cell phone once more, opening the message filled with a cruel reminder of the betrayal. He wanted to confront her, demand answers, yet somewhere deep down, he acknowledged that nothing she could say would erase the truth already engraved within him. His heart froze. "You need to come home. I need to tell you the truth. Please, give me this chance." He nearly tossed his phone aside, but something gripped him. There was urgency in her words, something that gnawed uneasily at him. Overwhelmed but against his better judgment, he started the car and drove back home. Upon arrival, he found Emily seated on the couch, her eyes red and swollen. As she stood, he noticed her unease, maintaining distance. "I know you don't want to hear me, but please, just give me this chance. I need to tell you everything. You deserve to know." Michael crossed his arms, standing firm. "Speak." Emily took a deep breath, beginning. "I met him long before you found out. I know you think I'm weak, that I did it for something different, but it wasn't just that. He knew things about me, things I wanted to hide, and he used them against me." Michael frowned, bewildered. What did he know? She ran her hands over her face, struggling to articulate. "I made choices I regret. I felt trapped in a life that seemed perfect, but I started to feel invisible." "Did you ever consider talking to me about it?" he asked, frustration evident in his voice. "I thought you wouldn't understand. I thought it was too late." "Too late? You didn't even try." "I was scared, Michael. Scared of losing everything." "You already lost everything when you decided to cheat." Emily's tears spilled over, her body shaking. "I know, I don't ask for forgiveness, but I need you to see how lost I was, how confused." Michael turned away, unsure of how to respond. The weight of her betrayal pressed heavily on him, but But through the anger, a flicker of empathy surfaced. "I loved you," she cried. "But I lost my way. I've never blamed you, I just felt alone." He took a deep breath. Was he ready to listen? What could she say to alter the course of her betrayal? "You know our love means everything to me. Let me prove to you I can fix this." Michael stayed silent, battling within, uncertain if he could ever trust again. His heart ached, but he knew there were truths left to confront, truths that might shatter or rebuild the pieces of their shattered life together.